All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf was Catch a Glimpse, and we are joined here now by, from left to right, trainer Mark Cassie, owner Gary Barber, and another one of the co-owners, Jeff Begg of Windways Farm. Congratulations to all three of you. Just an incredible race. And let's start with you, Mark. Maybe take us through it in terms of, especially at the break, you know, she comes out of there like a shot. You must have been a little bit worried that they were going to duel on the lead, but then he backs off.
Yeah, I started worrying, and I apologize because I never remember anybody's horse's names. I only remember the trainers. But when I was looking at the handicap in the race, and I came to Wesley Ward's horse, gave me great concern. I felt really confident coming into this race, and then I saw, you know, when I was looking at that filly, I said, oh boy. And so we talked about it, and our plan was to try to back off of her, either outbreak her and beat her to the first turn, or if she outbroke us, let her go and sit behind. And it didn't really, we were trying to take back, and I was a little concerned. But I tell you what, when they went down the backside and we were able to get outside, I felt pretty good. Because this is a good filly. She's a good filly.
I would say so. And Mr. Barber, how about you? Just in terms of especially watching what looked like perhaps a pace duel out of the gate, but then watching Flo back off, and your thoughts early in the race.
Well, pretty much the same what Mark said. We were just worried about the 5-horse going and getting into a bit of a suicide duel, but Flo did a masterful job of just pulling back and then getting to the outside, and once she got into a comfortable stride on the outside, and the time I think was 24 and 2, it was, you know, reasonable time, and when we got to the far turn and coming home, I felt really good, and she got to the lead, and when she's on the lead, she's tough.
Yeah. And Mark, now maybe just talk about coming into this race. You seemed very confident coming off of the win at Woodbine.
You know, not many people listen to me, but I would say, you know, this filly's a good filly. I thought when she won the Natalma Prep, she was much better than it looked. And then we've won the Natalma, I think, 7 times. And I told a few people, I said, this is the best Natalma winner that I've ever had. And, you know, I thought we had a good shot. Like I said, my only concern was Wesley Ward's filly. But, you know, it was exciting. I have to, Jeff and Mike bought her, and I have to say Gary has been one of my biggest supporters. And if I call Gary with an idea about buying a horse, he usually says yes, and that's how this group came together. And it's nice when you can, you know, when people put that much confidence in you and you're able to deliver. So it was very gratifying.
And maybe from Jeff and Michael, we can hear a little bit more about who picked her out at Keeneland last year and how you came to own this filly.
I bought the filly last year at Keeneland, and it was funny because actually I went to look at another filly at a consignment, and this filly was standing outside, and I was like, "Whoa, that filly looks pretty sharp." And so I looked at the page, and she was a half sister to a horse called Old Forester, who stands in Canada. Very fast horse. So I looked at her again, and then the second day I went back and I pulled her out with the other horse, and every day I looked at her, I liked her more. She wasn't a big horse. She didn't have tons of bone, but she was very, very athletic, looked very quick. And I like fillies with a low pedigree. And, you know, I really thought her whole card would probably be the Turf with the City Zip and the Irish River on the dam side. So I bought her, and Mike has been a client of mine for a number of years, and he's always game to go in, and so he picked up a third. And actually, we had her kind of pegged to go to a 2-year-old sale with a couple other fillies, and every time I watched them train in Ocala, I liked them better and better, and I was down and I called Mark and I said, "I want you to come look at some fillies." And he came out and watched all 3 train, and he goes, "I like them." And I said, "Well, if you can get someone to buy a third, you know, you can take them and train them."
And I said, "I know just the guy."
So anyway, so it came about over, the plan changed a few times, but the partnership came about, and it worked out, to say the least. So.
And Mike, we would like to hear from you. Talk about just watching this filly progress over the last few months, getting better and better.
Well, it's a complete surprise, to be honest. And
Thanks, Mike.
We were a little discouraged when she ran in the slop at Saratoga, and then Mark brought her up here, up to Canada, and that's where the good news started. And as a matter of fact, I wasn't even there for the Natama because I was in Vancouver for my son's wedding, and but I was watching it at Hastings, and we kind of woke up the old guys who were kind of sleeping around the room at the time, and here we are. What a great thrill.
Very good. Let me check and see if there are questions here in the briefing room. Tom?
Mr. Cassie, was this race a long-term target, or was it like an afterthought after the horse started getting better?
Well, you all, as I said to somebody yesterday, you know, this game is about dreams. So when you buy a horse, the dream is always the Breeders' Cup, the Kentucky Derby, those races. So, yes, she showed a lot. We had her here this spring, and she was she showed she was a little better than average. That's why she ended up at Saratoga. But when did I really think we could win the Breeders' Cup? After she was so impressive in the Natalma. I hadn't really given much thought about that. I'm a guy that kind of like goes from one race to the other. I sometimes I get along, but I wanted her to show me she was that good.
And Mark and Gary, you've both been well represented in the Breeders' Cup over the years. How does it feel to get the win?
It took us a long time to win the Queen's Plate, and we were lucky to win it, Gary and I, with Lexi Lou, and then for this, we almost got it
with Laugh Track.
With Laugh
In
Track
the
a couple
sprint,
years
yeah,
ago,
another
but
stride and-
watch out, we're just getting started now.
Yeah, exactly.
Gary,
Exactly.
anything to add to that?
No, I think Mark's right. It's a dream for me. It's my first Breeders' Cup as well. So it was my first Queen's Plate with Mark, and it's my first Breeders' Cup. So not only is he a great trainer, he's my lucky trainer.
Very good. Greg?
Gary or anybody, but Gary, given your involvement, with Spyglass in the movie industry, this horse, if he's turned in the other direction by the barn, you might not have. I mean, is this a movie you would buy, and what kind of a movie would it be?
I got to separate my heart from my brain a little bit when it comes to movies. I mean, I struggled to make Seabiscuit because I kept saying to myself, am I going with my heart instead of with the logic? But eventually the script was so good that I decided to invest in Seabiscuit. But this is a storybook ending, a great script, but I think I'll leave it to the racetrack.
Mark, what will be the targets from here?
Arrest.
Yeah.
For all of us. Yeah, I'll talk it to these guys, but I would say she'll go to Ocala for a little while and get a little bit of a break, and then figure out where we go from there.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, congratulations. Impressive effort, and we appreciate the time.
Hope to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
we'll
much.
hope so.
Me too.
This is the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf.
Very good, partner. Don't steal mine. Don't steal my gift.
Okay, come with me and drink a little champagne.
Do you know Gary?
Yeah, we just